Good afternoon. It is truly an honor and pleasure to be here today, and I can't thank Lisa enough for the organization's engagement in delivering free market into healthcare. Yesterday, Speaker Newt Gingrich mentioned to you all about healthcare price transparency and its polling results at being 87% of American public wanting to know prices in healthcare in advance of care, because they know once they can see prices, they can be able to save their own money and have freedom of control over their healthcare choices. A recent survey of the midterm voters showed that it was north of 90% of American voters wanting healthcare price transparency. This is huge. Years ago, Newt had said, if there's any political issue in a policy that you have north of 60% support, stand in front of it and smile. Well, this is something that is long overdue, and thanks to the instrumental work that Newt did over 20 years ago, he wrote the book, and I recommend it for all of you still, Saving Lives, Saving Money. And the Trump administration, with the strength and leadership of President Trump and Vice President Pence and their team, moved mountains to deliver full-scale system-wide price transparency to the U.S. citizenry. That we, for the first time, the Trump administration delivered moving mountains. They took existing law, took the dust off the shelf, and made it into an executive order and administrative action, giving us the right to know prices in advance of care everywhere. They made it that every single hospital in this country has to post prices online as of nearly 2 years ago, January 1st, 2021. They made it that every insurance company has to post all of the prices they negotiate for every employer, and even Medicare and Medicaid costs need to be revealed, posted online for every employer and every health plan. In addition, they delivered through Congress the ability for every employer for the first time to have the right to access all of their historical health claims data so that they can parse through that data and find out where they're being overcharged for their employees and be able to give incentives and bonuses to employees to steer them to better quality care at much lower prices and put these runaway cost trends in reverse. So we applaud strongly because it took great courage and bravery by the Trump and Pence administration to overcome the objections and fierce lobbying of the healthcare industrial complex. And why did they fight so hard for this moment in time? Is because they knew that free markets mattered. And they knew that we are at a junction point and a fork in the road where this country is either leading toward bigger and bigger government controlling and managing our healthcare in conjunction with the healthcare industrial complex, or they shift the power to the patient. And they enable all of us to get control of actually seeing prices for the first time, knowing prices. And they knew very clearly that when you can see a price, you ask the next question. Well, what am I gonna get for that price? And so price discovery ushers in quality transparency. And when all of us can see prices and quality, we will receive better quality of care at a much lower cost. Not only to us individually and as families, but societally. And they were bold enough to fight this fight and give this to all of us, this right. Because they were fed up. They were fed up with looking at the data, seeing that the United States, our country, pays 2.5 times more than any other developed country for healthcare. And though we have among the best of scientists and the best of innovation, Our quality is rapidly deteriorating. In fact, our lifespans went down by 2 years independent of COVID, and we are slipping on our lifespan in compared to any other developed country. So poor quality at 2.5 times the cost. This is the chance for free market to take hold. Why else did they fight so hard? Well, it was for the individual stories. In fact, they put the patient first. The whole agenda about price transparency was to shift the power to the patient to be able to be in control of their health decisions as well as their wealth decisions, and to stop being blind to no prices in advance of care, being blindsided by many times outrageous medical bills that don't even match the medical care experience, and having to sign a blank check in order to get care at any hospital or physician practice throughout this country. And yet, what was the outcome of this hiding of prices and the industry keeping prices secret? Don't think the Trump administration wasn't sued by both the hospitals and the insurance companies, and they lost in the courts. Not the Trump administration won on behalf of all of us. We consumers have the right to know before we go. But they fought because of people like Wanda Brooks, who's on our website in our video. By chance, we went to a courthouse in Fredericksburg, Maryland, on the hospital, Mary Washington Hospital, named after George Washington's mother. Built a beautiful cathedral crystal atrium. But Wanda was sued on a Friday afternoon for $8,000 of medical charges, and she is a nurse in a nearby facility. And they decided that her emergency visit that she did not want to go on, she just needed a break and a glass of water because she was dehydrated. That emergency visit that her own employer asked her to go cost her over $8,000 out of her coverage that she did not have. Single mother of 2, she ended up being sued, and the hospital garnished half of her wages. We helped fight in the courts for her and found that she was indeed overcharged on many levels in that care that were irrelevant to her health diagnosis, and the charges were dropped. Another nurse, Mass General nurse, what brought me to Washington, was told she had cancer and needed proton beam, but they didn't cover her proton beam therapy for her cancer, which was preferred, and so they set her up with a social worker to become a beggar. That's right. She came to me, among friends and other family members, to raise $38,000 before she could get her care. What? A nurse at Mass General being denied care on a modality that they provide, and yet being set up with a social worker to beg? I'm sorry, I had to come to Washington. What we see is everyone, and I would bet if I sat with every one of you, we all have a story of being overcharged or a family member. And so many Americans, 64%, delay care for fear of financial ruin. Price transparency, however, was fought for and now in our hands because of the successes that the people that took that courage to run healthcare by the numbers and get access to these prices have made a significant difference. And so what the administration of Vice President and Pence and Trump saw was they brought in businesses that saved 30 to 50% because they got access to their health claims data. They reversed engineered prices, and they basically found a way to steer and give bonuses to employees to lower the cost of healthcare and drugs. And they've saved 30 to 50% for their businesses and put it back into wages, which have been suppressed by the current system. And so to increase wages in these inflationary times, We also want to deliver what we saw in Montana, where Marilyn Bartlett, head of the state 30,000 employee health program, with a deficit at the time, was brought in to turn it around, and they had $9 million in the hole, and they had to overcome that. Within 2 years, by Marilyn looking at all of the hospitals' Medicare cost data, where she found out how hospitals actually make money in Medicare, make about 10% to 20% in Medicare, she negotiated a reference-based price at nearly 200% of Medicare for all of the state employees, and within 2 years saved $121 million for the state and put it into the coffers. Many school districts in Ohio, like Ashtabula and Osceola School District in Florida, just this past year, they saved $21 million in a 2-year time frame from a $68 million plan. This can happen across the country for communities, towns, and school districts to get back the money that is so due them for education and their core businesses. And it all can be done, but we need you. We need your leadership. We're thrilled this administration has kept these executive orders and rules. We're thrilled that the penalties are to be higher, to $2 million for hospitals for not complying. And sadly, our organization does a semi-annual report on what is hospital compliance at posting their hospital prices and letting them visible to all Americans. And only 16% of the hospitals in this country are complying with the law. So to the leadership of ALEC and those that Lisa mentioned, like Patrick Neville in Colorado, who got it signed in Colorado, strongly bipartisan. Remember, this is a 90% issue. Virginia, Governor Youngkin following suit to codify these rules into state law. And by putting them into state law and enforcing the law in the states, and moreover, all of you leading that cause to implement this in this next session, have the ability to truly deliver free market, a functional and a competitive marketplace in healthcare for all of us. And it's gonna take bravery, it's gonna take courage, it's gonna take your tenacity against the many lobbyists that will come and argue why not. But you know every one of your constituents will honor you and applaud you in that fight to deliver a far better quality healthcare system so we can live longer lives at a much lower cost and put it back into the US economy, especially in these inflationary times. Think what you can deliver to the American individual, the American family, in their ability for wages and keeping their take-home pay, as well as every single American business that this year was told that their insurance rates and their hospital increases in prices next year are expected to go up 20 to 24%. Outrageous, far above inflation. So you have this opportunity, and I thank for those leaders that are actually really taking hold, and ALEC has done a beautiful job on drafting the state legislation that you can take forward and pass and change healthcare, and you are the revolutionaries. So thank you.